I go to battle for you every day to combat the nonsense in the mainstream media. They're more interested in sound bites and sensationalism. I'm interested in the truth and being your consumer advocate. My ultimate goal is to help you win in any marketplace, and I'm bringing an edge in the real estate and financial game. My name is Craig Sewing, and this is The American Dream. Welcome back to The American Dream. You know, you live in a city that is just, it's amazing. There's a reason that it's a little bit more expensive. You pay for the sunshine. And one of the cool things about it is a lot of the professionals we actually bring on this show, they're experts in the micro markets, but some of them actually live, work, and play in their market as well. I want to play a quick clip for you for our next guest, Brian Lewis, is going to be coming on here in just a moment. Brian Lewis joining us in studio. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me again.
Partner in crime in the escrow business. Shanon Leader, thank you for joining us as well for Lead Escrow. So, you know, that video starts off and it's two, you know, weird guys with caps on.
I don't love it because I'm in it. I love the drone.
You love
and
it
I love when he pulls up and he shows us exactly why we all live here.
It's amazing. When it goes all the way up and then you catch that almost 360
Mission Bay, Pacific Beach, La Jolla.
But you're always doing stuff like this. I think that's Fiesta Island we're looking at right now. I did a triathlon sprint over in Fiesta Island about a year and a half ago. I did vomit in the middle of it, not to gross anybody out. You do this stuff regularly. You have a sailboat, you scuba dive, and you're one of the most well-known Pacific Beach realtors. So you do it all. You have a lot of fun doing it. What's coming up? We got a spring triathlon coming up.
Yeah, well, so more of that. There's a triathlon coming up in Mission. It's at Fiesta Island.
Okay.
So that was actually filmed down by the roller coaster in Ventura Cove. So there's an international sprint that happens down there in June, and then the one that's coming up in May is on Fiesta Island. It's a little. What do you call it? Sprint. Yeah, so
sprint. But
nice short one.
What's the difference between the sprint and what you typically do?
It's all length. So there's Ironman, there's half Ironman, there's International Olympic. I've done a half.
Half Ironman.
It's 70.3 miles.
And then there's what I do, and I just run around, you know, Mission Bay, like
and
3 miles.
and that's fine too. Yeah, you can go walk the dog, and it still works out just fine.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then we have out in PB, where you're an expert all the way up the coast, the restaurant walk.
Another restaurant walk coming up on May 4th, I want to say.
Coming up.
Yeah. And it's for $20. You get to sample up and down the boardwalk, I think, 15 different restaurants and cuisine. So that's another, you know, Shanon lives in Pacific Beach too, so she partakes in all this great stuff that happens. There's always something going on.
What are your favorite restaurants in PB?
Oh boy.
The Patio, Cantina.
Yeah.
Which one's the Patio?
Patio's a newer restaurant on Lamont Street.
On Lamont. They took over the old Lamont Street Grill.
I'll tell you the best restaurant in PB, I don't even know the name of it, but I bet you guys can tell me. It's a Hawaiian restaurant. It's not on the water, but it's a few blocks in. Don't know. Carmody would know.
Stumped.
Yeah. Anyway, if you like Hawaiian food, there's one in
Oh, I know. You're talking about Leilani's.
Leilani's by Ralph's.
This is why we keep you around.
Yeah.
So Leilani's is one of the coolest little quaint little restaurants. You sit on the patio. If you like Hawaiian food, it is the spot. All right. So you were on the radio show, and we got to remind people that we host a show every day. So if we're not here on Saturday mornings on 1170 AM KCBQ at 6 o'clock, I'm positioned as a consumer advocate. Really, that's just bringing you objective advice, not commission-based advice, no strings attached. It's really there to help you and be a resource for you. I bring experts like Brian on. Recently, you were on the show, and we were talking about just the craziness of what happens in a real estate transaction. I mean, there's a lot of money involved. The one thing, and Shannon, you actually help facilitate the money, the earnest deposit. The one thing I've always said about real estate transactions is that don't you wish you got to see the money on the deal? You get $1 million purchase and they just wire it through gals like her. Couldn't there be a Tony Soprano briefcase where they just like pile it on and at least the buyer can see it, go to the seller? I think that'd be a lot more fun, but there'd probably be a lot more corruption. But you're telling some really interesting stories. Let's explain what you do first, which is you're the liaison. You position
Escrow is a neutral third party, and I think a lot of people don't understand what escrow is, sort of like you don't understand how a fine Swiss watch works.
Sure.
You appreciate the precision, but you don't really know the inner workings. Well, we're there to do the same thing. We're to do a really good job for your clients, make sure everything that is agreed to in the contract. The buyer and seller agree to terms in a contract. We make sure those terms are agreed to before money changes hand, title of the property changes hands, etc. And things can go wrong, or there can be disputes, or someone can have a lien, and there can be things that just need to be cleared up before one person takes the house and the other person, gives $1 million or more for that house.
And you hold on to that earnest deposit, which is really important, kind of down payment on the contract.
Right, because the terms have to be agreed to, things have to be paid off, bills have to be paid, etc. And if there is a dispute and, heaven forbid the escrow doesn't close, that money still sits there until it's determined which party gets the money or it's released back to the buyer. I mean, there are times when it doesn't always go back that way. So we have to be not necessarily a referee, because we really are a neutral third party, but we have to make sure what person A said is getting done and person B, and then they all come together and we go
very important part of the transaction. You're right, though. Not too many people know about it.
Nobody really thinks about it.
Right.
I think about it like the offensive tackle for the Chargers. Very important. The player might go to a Pro Bowl, but nobody knows his name. It's like if you don't have that guy, your quarterback's going to get his neck broke.
Right.
So very, very important. And of course, you've seen some of these transactions where things can get pretty squirrely.
Oh gosh, you're talking about deposits disappearing. Bringing in a big thing of cash. Somebody hands me a check for $50,000. That's a lot of money. So you want to make sure you're dealing with a company that's got integrity and honesty and does the job correctly. So I mean, we're talking about big dollars. So
and the consumer relies on you to pick the escrow, correct?
It depends. We always give the seller the option. If they have a company that they like to work with, we'll use their company. But a lot of times they rely on us, and so I rely on somebody, and that's why I bring Shanon on, is because I've been through a lot of escrow companies, and I've seen crazy stuff happen. She's being delicate about it. I mean, I've seen stuff that is just nuts, and so you want to be with a company that you can trust. And, it's for both sides. It's not just the seller side, it's the buyer side too, because they are neutral. But you want to know that you're putting these people's lives in somebody's hands that's going to communicate, be honest, be trustworthy, have integrity, and do the right.
Well, let's be honest here. And then you remove the realtor and the emotion from the deal.
Exactly.
Where there's commission-based advice at times.
Yeah.
So it neutralizes it. It's required for every deal. And someone like Shanon is a very well-respected escrow agent here in San Diego with Elite Escrow, so I appreciate you coming in here. I want to stay on the same topic of escrow. We just got past April 15th, which is the tax deadline. Also, when it comes to escrow and capital gains, we can combine this into one topic, which is a 1031 exchange. Now, many people make mistakes on this, so I wanted to bring in our good friend Bill Exeter again, with Exeter 1031 to help us understand. We just got out of tax season, Bill. So what are some of the things you see this time of year?
Well, we've had a lot of calls this time around where people say, I sold and closed escrow last year, November, December, what have you. And now they're calling and asking if they can defer the taxes. And it's too late at that point. Once the escrow closes, they have the right to the proceeds.
So if you've already closed a transaction, you've basically, without facilitating a 1031, you've given your money up to the IRS versus protecting your capital gains. Real quick, could you explain what a 1031 is, just to clarify for anyone who's not sure?
Sure. I mean, the 1031 exchange is really designed to help the investors sell real estate, so rental property or investment property, and really keep all the money working for them by deferring the payment of their taxes through reinvesting in replacement property. So it's really a wealth building tool, if you will, to keep the money in your pocket.
On Tuesday, April 15th, did you get a lot of calls around this, or are people not timely with this?
We got a ton of phone calls. A lot of people who had lost documents from their transaction and we have to pull them out of the files, or people who want to defer the taxes and realize they didn't do it right.
Now, do you typically get calls directly, Bill, from the people that are watching the show right now, or is it the professional, the guys like Brian Lewis who represent the client and are trying to facilitate the sale of one investment property into a bigger and better property?
We really get both. I mean, we're a good sounding board, so when people are trying to put the transaction together, they can call, bounce ideas off of us, and we'll help structure the transaction and make sure it's compliant with the tax codes.
Now, real quick, Bill, as far as the properties that people can move into, if you're going to sell an investment property and you're going to reposition the gains into a bigger and better property, what properties qualify and what doesn't?
It's got to be property held for rental, held for investment, or used in some kind of a business operation. Properties that are used for a primary residence, personal vacation properties, a second home, typically do not qualify because they're personal use. They're not held for investment. And the key there is that the taxpayer has to have the intent to hold for investment. So if they're buying properties to fix up and flip or rehab, doesn't qualify. They really have to have the intent to buy and hold long-term as investment properties.
Got it. If you're interested in learning more about 1031 exchange, how to handle an investment property, whether you're a professional or you're just a consumer with some questions, Bill's got some information at his website. You can go to Exeter1031.com, connect with Bill. Real quick, we always encourage you to go to craigsewing.com if you have any questions with anything we discussed here today, or for any day for that matter. I'd love to get to one of your emails here. We just encourage you. It goes through the contact form directly to me. Let's see if we can't answer a question real quick for one of our viewers. Hey, Craig, my house underwater. Does it make sense just to give back to the bank? This is Jessica out of Mission Beach. So Mission Beach, a market that Brian Lewis covers here. We can both answer this one. It never, ever, ever.
Let me look at it first.
ever makes sense to foreclose on real estate.
No.
There's so many options out, but how many people did you see over the last few years just give up, give back to the bank?
We're still seeing it. Yeah, it's not as prevalent, but it's still happening. And I would say to Jessica, let me come take a look at it and really give you analysis and see how far, if it is indeed underwater, because the market has bounced back dramatically. And
that's a good point too.
I agree with you.
Let's see what the value of the property is. We're doing free property evaluations. Maybe you have equity. Go to craigsewing.com, ask for our free property evaluation. Here's something that's really big as well. We have a partner in the radio show on KCBQ named Michael Ripley. Michael Ripley is a loan modification specialist. This guy is unbelievable. He's getting principal reduced off of mortgages. He's getting permanently reduced interest rates. I know that a lot of people have tried loan mod, maybe even been ripped off.
Yeah.
Michael Ripley is outstanding. He's going to give you a free advice. If he can't modify it, then you talk to someone like Brian and say, okay, we can't modify it, don't foreclose. Maybe there's an option to short sale your home. There's people that short sold 2007 through 10 that are buying again.
Yeah.
So look, there's no debtor's jail in this country. You have plenty of things you can do, but no, the answer is no. You never ever give your house back to the bank. It's bad for your credit, bad for your tax liability, creates legal liability. No bueno. So I hope that answered your question there. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shanon, for coming in here today.
Our pleasure.
All right, coming up next, we have Mary Maloney, our North County real estate elite. Mary is outstanding. She was on the radio show recently talking about the health of the housing market in North County. Got a real special segment coming up here on The American Dream with Mary in just a moment.